Smackdown. That is Mike Sweeney. We're going to be breaking down the entire Attitude Era on Netflix now that Raw has moved to Netflix. And we could be with you every week here on Monday. So give us an oh, hell yeah. Subscribe and like on YouTube today to keep up to date on all of our Analyzing Attitude episodes. And we're going to start off where, Mike, well, I guess this is the great debate. Where does the Attitude Era officially start at? For me, it's November 10th, 1997, the day after the Montreal Screw Job, which is what we're going to review today. A little bit of I think a lot of people think, the Attitude Era happens, the Screw Job happens, Brett screwed Brett, and we were off and running. But this is a little bit of a slower episode.
Yeah, like you said, it's debatable where it started. You could go with the birth of Austin 316, when Brett shoved Vince down on his ass, yada, yada, yada. For me, I agree. It's when the Screw Job happened, and I don't think Vince does his promo on this episode, but it's shortly thereafter, and they really do start embracing the attitude.
Yeah, well, and this is the the passe good guys versus bad guys, and it's interesting because I think a lot of people remember the Austin 316 promo being much closer to this event that we're about to talk about, November of 97. The Austin 316 promo was the King of the Ring in June 23rd, 1996. So, I mean, you have almost actually over a year of time that goes by between the Austin 316 promo and then the Brett Screwed Brett promo, which I think a lot of people in revisionist history, because this thing called the internet didn't exist back then,
right.
that they were much closer than they actually are. But in all honesty, we're talking, what would that be? That's 17 months in between, which is incredible because when you didn't have a premium live event every single month and you had only 4 to 6 pay-per-views a year, these things seem closer together because you don't have as many moments or shows in between.
Right. And and I do think even with the Austin thing, it the tracks were kind of halted when he broke his neck.
Yeah,
which was just a few months prior to that. But debate all you want. To me, it's exactly where it started, because you already had the seeds planted with Austin, with DX.
Sure.
But
we know now from podcasts and revisionist history that Vince and Pat Patterson planned all these things out months in advance. Obviously, didn't plan the Screw Job out, but they knew belt was going to Shawn. We were going to go to Mania 14, Shawn versus Austin. So I think in real time, there's a lot of different debates, but I think that what we're about to talk about here on November 10th, 1997 is the perfect jumping off point because it sends us towards ShawnMichaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania.
Right. And just to be a little quirky here, sure. Some of them had it planned out days leading up.
Yeah. And that's a debate we can have later in the show too, because we've heard Vince Russo clearly didn't come up with the Screw Job, but he likes telling people he did. Triple H has said that he said just screw him on the way out, and Jim Cornette claims that he's done so as well, which is weird because you never hear Jim Cornette or Vince Russo mentioned in the same sentence ever. But, both of those guys taking claim.
Except Jim Cornette wants Vince Russo to die.
Specifically so he could piss on his grave. Jim Cornette's words, not mine. But this event we're talking about tonight is November 10th, 1997. And the you could say they didn't plan it all you want or whatever. But the fact that they knew this was going to happen and that they were still going to be in Canada the very next night, because this one comes from the Ottawa, Growth Center in Ontario, Ottawa, Canada. The commentators for the first hour, which is really interesting because this is something that only lasted a few more months as well. The first hour was Jim Ross and the aforementioned Jim Cornette, and the second hour was who we eventually find is the Raw broadcast team with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. But the other interesting thing about this is not only is it the night after the Montreal Screw Job, but as you're about to see in a minute, it was the night of the debut of DX's infamous intro. That we all came to know and love later, obviously in the Attitude Era with the "Are you ready?" And obviously that became a big part of Triple H's mantra throughout the rest. We'll take a look here at the episode, and this is a little bit of a boring episode, Mike. But the thing that's interesting here is we're about to see Ravishing Rick Rude was still a member of DX at this time. The following week is the infamous Monday Night Raw, Monday Nitro, where both he shows up on both shows and was really just an incredible moment because Raw was taped at the time. And one thing that I thought would be cool if we did here, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, is I thought it'd be really cool if, because people forget back in the day, the Westminster Dog Show would preempt Raw and they'd be off for a week. And I thought it'd be cool if we
hated it.
I thought it'd be cool if we. I thought it'd be cool if we reviewed Nitro for the weeks that there wasn't a Raw.
Oh, I'm down with that. And like, sorry, Westminster, like probably a fine show. Don't know. It used to drive me absolutely insane when that thing delayed Raw.
And sometimes it completely preempted it. It wasn't even Raw, wouldn't even air, and those were the worst weeks.
Oh yeah, it drove me completely nuts. And I'm glad you clarified the Rick Rude thing, by the way, because I was just about to ask. It's like, if it's not this episode, it's damn close.
It is literally the very next episode of Raw / Nitro where he appears on both shows, and Rick Rude coming out to a tremendous amount of boos, obviously in Canada, the night after the Montreal Screw Job, as he's about to announce the new WWF World Champion, Shawn Michaels, in Canada. And we all know how much Shawn is beloved after this moment, including the 2005 Brett Screwed Brett promo where he made it seem like BrettHart was coming back for one night, and he trolled the entire Montreal crowd.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Jamie. And you probably know as well. I am a diehard Shawn fan. I did like Brett, and I mean I respect him more to this day. But God, Shawn was just a glorious prick.
Yeah, and like the great thing about Rick Rude is they send him out first, right? We're not going to give you Shawn. We're going to let the fever pitch build. We're going to hit TX's music. We're going to let you think we're going to open with Shawn Michaels. I think this was a little bit of, let's make sure they don't start throwing batteries and coming over the railing as soon as we play this music.
Which is actually kind of like a future thing that happens. I think they were doing the WrestleMania like press tour, like in the middle of a city, and Shawn gets hit in the head with a battery and leaves.
Well, and I think it's really interesting now that obviously Raw moves to Netflix. That's where we're streaming this from now, because they have these episodes on there. Is when this was on the WWE Network, the crowd noise, where there's some very not flattering things being said about Shawn Michaels, was blurred out. And I don't know if our viewers could see it there in the closed caption. They have the full, not only do they have the full crowd noise embedded into it, the closed captions tell you exactly what the crowd is saying too, by the way. So Netflix pushing the envelope a little bit here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I'm glad they're not blurping anything out, or I don't know if they did at the time. I don't think they would have, because it was, I don't even know if they knew.
This was right. Yeah, the technology may not have been there, but the thing is like USA Network sent that letter to DX, which we'll get into. We'll have the privilege of breaking down in future episodes as well. But they that was part of the problem, right? Is the crowd mics were picking up curse words, and that was one of the things that the USA Network was very upset about. And there you see Shawn Michaels still has not dropped the title to Triple H, the European Championship that was so bolsterous and everybody loved, and there were so many historians that were able to win that title that went on to future Hall of Fame careers. We'll get into that too. And obviously almost the WWE's version of the finger poke of doom, Shawn Michaels dropping the illustrious European Championship to Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Oh God, people hated that, and I can't wait to cover that one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we're just a few episodes away from that one.
I believe it's the Hammerstein Ballroom in December, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, I think this is a great move by Vince, having Rick Rude come out and conduct this interview, because you want to keep the heat, right? Like you don't want to have a Jim Ross, a Michael Cole, a Kevin Kelly, whoever it may be, in the ring interviewing Shawn, because you want softball questions. How do we make these people hate him even more? And then here you have Rick Rude congratulating Shawn Michaels on his win. The interesting thing that I think that I want to point out here is this is on, like I said, this is on Netflix streaming. They still have the WWF logo in the bottom left corner. This isn't the WWE logo, and I think that's really intriguing for them to do that.
Yeah, because when they were all on Peacock, and I know there still is stuff on Peacock.
It was all dubbed over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting the DVDs after they had switched to WWE, and just like I think it was like WrestleMania 17 or 18, nothing but blurs. Like the turnbuckle pads, the ref shirt, like it was like, oh my gosh, like why did I even buy this DVD? It's just nothing but blurs.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't even noticed. I haven't looked at the turnbuckles yet, but we were talking about this before we hit record. None of this was on Netflix just a few weeks ago, and obviously well-timed first debut episode of Analyzing Attitude here, where we get. I think it's only been 10 days since all this has been uploaded. Now we're going to struggle with next week's maybe because it's the next week's episode is not up yet, and I wonder how much that might have to do with the fact that it is the episode where Rick Rude debuted on both Nitro and was also on Raw.
I mean, I would think that they weren't that petty anymore.
Vince is gone, so
yeah. But I mean, it's very possible. Maybe it's just lazy, but I personally don't know why they just didn't upload everything.
Yeah, and it may be like a server error issue or something,
right?
And you got to love Sean here laying it on thick, talking about how he beat BrettHart in his own country with his own move. How diabolical! How could he do it with his own move? Like only in professional wrestling is that something that's insulting. Like you never see a boxing match where a guy knocks somebody out with an uppercut, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's beating 15 boxers with an uppercut. How disrespectful!"
That's the beauty of pro wrestling, though. Like they take those real like boxing-esque fights and they make you care, and that's what I always tell everyone. Like, how do you still watch that? How do you still watch that? It's like. It's fighting with like the art of like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, like the drama. It's like you can't beat it.
Believe it or not, Jon Snow did not actually shoot Ramsay Bolton with an arrow, right?
No.
and you know, obviously, I think a lot of people assumed before Sean admitted everybody knew, but like the fact that they doubled down on it, like Mick Foley is sitting at home right now, not wanting to come back to work in this moment because he didn't know.
Yeah.
And you had a couple of guys that did that, and they still send Sean out, not even 24 hours later, to deliver this promo where he's telling people, I heard BrettHart squeal, I quit. And it's really like, and listen, Kevin Nash still believes that it was an all-in inside job, and they sent Brett down there to screw over WCW. And when you see this promo and you hear him lay this on, not even 12 hours after allegedly crying in a locker room that he didn't know, and listen, it makes it a little more believable, right?
Right. And I mean, and we all know now Sean did know, and he did have to play it. But yeah, other than Triple H and Sean, I've heard on record the other 3 Click members, R.I.P. Scott Hall, by the way, that they all said it was a work. I think it was a work. Like, can't remember. Maybe it was Sean something. He used to do the
Sean Waltman.
It was a guy that did kayfabe commentaries. Sean something.
He does the Click
podcast.
Sean. Man, why can't I think of his last name? But yeah, I know who you're talking about.
But he did a lot with Nash, Hall, and Sean Waltman, and they all like it was a work. It was a work. I don't think it was work personally, but if it was a work, it was done Oliver, masterfully.
Right? Yeah, I don't think it's not Sean Oliver. I can't remember the guy.
It is Sean Oliver. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. That was just coming from memory because everything I was Googling was coming up incorrectly. It's so like they just keep hammering home that Brett quit here. It's Rick Rude just unapologetically. You never said I quit, right, Sean? It's just like, you know, and he gets interrupted here by Ken Shamrock, who was getting a giant push at this time,
right?
And it obviously when you have an illegitimate moment like the Montreal Screw Job where the fourth wall just gets broken down. I mean, I guess the thought process here around putting Sean against Ken Shamrock is how do we make it more legitimate? Let's send out a legit UFC fighter here to go to face our world champion and show how legit Sean, our champion, is, right?
Right. That's right. And I honestly don't remember when it happened, but that's another another thing that Sean's, like I said, a remarkable prick.
Yeah.
I think he puts him in an ankle lock at one point, and he has a lollipop.
You have
It
to,
is like,
right?
and
Have
he
to.
does not drop the lollipop, and I'm like, but I did want to say too, I want to give Ken Shamrock his flowers because that dude is so underrated.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks that he never did a sit up in his life. My God.
I'm kind of questioning myself with my hair right now, looking at these two gents.
Yeah, I hear you. And just to break down what we're going to see here by the end of the show is we're going to get Ahmed Johnson versus Mark Mero, Taka Michinoku versus Devin Storm, and everybody remembers Devin Storm, right? The Headbangers taking on the Truth Commission and the New Age Outlaws against Bradshaw in a handicap match. The Undertaker and Kama Mustafa, and not yet the Godfather, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley taking on Ken Shamrock, as we're seeing right now. Ken Shamrock wants a shot at the championship, but he unfortunately only gets Triple H to set up a world title shot with HBK at the end of this. But yeah, I just think it's incredible how you go from, hey, it's not real, it's a facade. We predetermine all this. We're not going to say it's fake, but it's, we're not going to insult your intelligence anymore. But we're going to trot out the world's most dangerous man to take on our champion to maybe bring a little bit of legitimacy back to the product.
Right. And I don't know about you, but it is kind of funny that they say we're tired of insulting your intelligence. I love Sean to death. Ken would kill him.
Yeah. And as we see here, Commissioner Sergeant Slaughter getting back into the ring, and obviously this starts a long feud between Sergeant Slaughter, that Shin, and DX to set up Ken Shamrock versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley tonight in your main event in Ottawa. And I also thought it was very smart to kind of protect Sean here a little bit. He doesn't get back in the ring, still make him a commodity that has to be seen. You got to pay to see him, which I think all champions should be treated as.
I agree. Like it's kind of like probably not to the degree Roman did, but like send like the Usos out to do the fighting, and yeah, like, and it's so weird to see Triple H in this role now that we know where he's at. But he was perfect for this role because he was Sean's, I hate to say it, lackey, but he also was getting out from underneath, getting punished from the curtain call.
Yep,
and trying to find his own footing that wasn't, the snobby blue blood.
Right.
And
this is I think less than 12 months removed from that as well.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out the one thing that I think we have to mention is the unfortunate thing is two of the people in that ring are no longer with us, with China and Rick Rude, unfortunately.
Right.
But obviously both still in great conditions. And Rick Rude, the reason he's in this situation is he went through the Lloyds of London lawsuit where he couldn't actively wrestle, so he's in a manager role. And for anybody that doesn't know, Lloyds of London was a lawsuit where professional wrestlers were able to basically get insurance money for not being able to wrestle due to injury. So
right. Yeah, that was a gnarly backbreak with Sting. I think he did wrestle a few after that, not too much. And then obviously, Joni's unfortunate, tragic. And I do think she needs to go in the Hall of Fame by herself someday, not just a part of DX.
She just went in this year, didn't she?
She went in a couple years ago with DX, and they gave her like a spotlight during the induction, but she hasn't gone in by herself. And that's when X-Pac said that they should do the China Memorial Battle Royal.
Oh, because they're removing the Fabulous Moolah, which they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll move on to our first match of the night, and topical for a couple of reasons, because not both guys that are in the match, not necessarily long for the WWF, but one of the valets definitely is in Sable, who accompanying her then husband Mark Marrow to the ring for this first matchup, and obviously
Mrs. Lesnar
becomes Brock Lesnar's wife. Have you ever heard the Mark Marrow story about when he found out that his wife was cheating on him? Mark Marrow.
I heard through little bits, but I'll let you tell the better story.
So he was on a shoot interview, and he said that when he found out that she was sleeping with one of the boys, he was going to go and fight and beat up whoever it was. Then he found out that it was Brock and said, "You know what? Never mind. You can have her."
Smart man.
And then listen, I mean, one guy that was getting some of the biggest ovations at this time was Ahmed Johnson, who's coming to the ring now to take on Mark Marrow. Just a guy that had the look, had the fan support, but just couldn't figure out the locker room, and thought it was a shoot, and and couldn't get out of his own way and figure out that you gotta make it work to make it work.
Right. And Triple H even just went on an interview recently, and he was kind of like, they had me when he was being punished, saying that he was working with this guy that didn't know what he was doing, yada yada yada. And finally, it came out that he's like, they're like, who was it? And he's like, Ahmed Johnson.
Well, yeah. And there's the interview with Mark Henry where he says that he walked into the locker room one time and D'Lo Brown and Ahmed were getting into it in the back because Ahmed said he was going to smoke Triple H. And, it's like Mark Henry had to kind of walk in and go, you're not going to smoke anybody. Like, we're going to nip this in the bud where it's at.
Right.
And because of that same match in that interview that Triple H was talking, that you were just alluded to with Triple H.
Right. Yeah. And I found out about him after the fact that he was already gone. But like rewatching this match is like, this guy's a stud. He's got the look, a little clunky in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, he's the bodybuilder look. For anybody that doesn't know, Mark Marrow in WCW played one of my favorite characters at the time during this time period, where he was Johnny B. Bad. But the problem, and Jim Cornette talks about this a lot, he was only trained in WCW to have the Johnny B. Bad match, be Johnny B. Bad, do Johnny B. Bad's mannerisms. He was never actually taught to wrestle, which you kind of see him kind of go into the boxing style here. That was his gimmick at the time too. But I think a lot of that was because of his limitations. So you have two guys kind of see there in the ring, just a little clunky and not really smooth because neither one of them have been properly trained to wrestle. And this match only goes a few minutes with Ahmed Johnson coming out on top, 227 with a
Pearl River plunge.
Yeah, well, Sable actually gets him disqualified, and we'll show that here in a minute. But it's clearly to kind of cover up both guys' shortcomings. This match only goes 2 minutes, and I think there's about 45 Irish whips in it, just because they can't really do much else. And you'll see here, Ahmed setting up for the Pearl River plunge, which was incredibly over. And there you see it. Mark Marrow actually goes down for a low blow to set him up for his finisher to keep the guy that's over and not technically beat him, but you got to get your finish in, and that was supposed to be Mark Marrow's finish that he couldn't execute. So more of what we're talking about here.
I do got to ask you though, Jimmy, how integral was Sable to the Attitude Era? Because as we'll see in future episodes, I would say up there with Austin on like.
Yeah, listen, it's also a time period where, like we just mentioned, the internet wasn't very prevalent. So when you had the only access you had to hot girls was in magazine and TV, right? So,
right. Oh man, I still think it's crazy that she ended up suing the place and came back and got into an angle with Vince that was basically like
what the lawsuit was based on.
Yeah,
there you see it. Butterbean is in attendance for this event, and obviously he ends up being a part of a WrestleMania later with Bart Gunn after the Tough Enough, and I still can't, or not Tough Enough, Brawl for All contest was completed, which was supposed to set up Dr. Death Steve Williams, but unfortunately / fortunately, I guess depending on how you look at it, Bart Gunn ends up winning the whole thing. And you talked about the importance of Sable, and now we see Sunny, who was the very first diva. And really, the most downloaded woman of 1997 at this time period as well.
Oh, that's right. AOL, right?
Correct. Yeah. Leave your AIM screen names in the comment section. We'll read them off on next week's episode.
Swing Pimp 24 over here.
There you go. That goes right along with your email address that you gave me tonight. But I think this is a couple things. And speaking of people that are no longer with us, there's Brian Christopher, Jerry Lawler's son, Grandmaster Sexay to some of you. But I think this is a smart move here. This is the light heavyweight tournament that they're putting on, and some lesser known wrestlers, and you're kind of bringing Sonny into the fold of the ring announcing to say, hey, maybe you don't care about these two guys, and we're about to see Taka Michinoku, who was a WWF/WWE guy for a long time, Kai and Tai, etc. Yeah, and he could definitely go, and this tournament proves that. But hey, this isn't a bathroom break moment. Let's bring Sonny out and make sure that we're conveying that these guys we're trying to get these guys over. This tournament should matter.
Right, 100%. It's very smart because, like you said, Sonny, basically the most popular woman at that time, even over Sable right now. But all these light heavyweights are unknowns. So how do we keep them interested? And I know what they're like. They're trying to combat WCW's cruiserweight division at the time.
That's where I was just about to go with this.
No offense to the light heavyweight division here in WWF at the time.
Are you saying Devin Storm wasn't Rey Mysterio Jr.? How dare you?
Man, I don't even know if he was. No disrespect. I can't say another person's name. I was going to say he's not even like a La Parca, but La Parca was awesome. So
La Parca was awesome, the chairman of WCW. Yeah, the one thing I took away from this episode is there was a ton of just botched spots. We'll share this here. At the end of this one, Taka coming off the top rope, completely missing and almost tearing Devin Storm's ACL there. But Brian Christopher tries to get involved here and is. They kind of set this up to highlight Brian Christopher versus Taka Michinoku for the light heavyweight division. But to your point, like, just not the same talent in this company as the other one.
No, Taka is great. And I'll have to look it up here. He had a WrestleMania match for the light heavyweight title, I think, at this upcoming WrestleMania. And that match was pretty awesome, if I remember it right. Might have to rewatch it. It was a mask guy. I'll have to look it up, but he was good.
Probably not Mel Masker. He wasn't really invited back after self-eliminating himself from the Royal Rumble.
Which that's not fair. Randy Savage did the same thing, right?
And they didn't count it. Yeah, for sure. He defeated Aguila for the light heavyweight title. In 1997 at WrestleMania 14. But Sonny again just championing home how important that match was, and that, hey, you should really care about the light heavyweight title because we know you probably don't.
Right. And with Sonny, I feel like just always right place, just wrong time. Like she came back with LOD 2000, and
who was in the match? Who was in the match before Taka Michinoku at that WrestleMania? Or LOD was not LOD 2000, but
it was the same Mania. You're right. And it was, I think it was like a tag team turmoil, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds great.
But Hawk couldn't keep his demons away.
Yeah.
So that failed. And then, unfortunately, Sonny's life, it took a turn for the worse, too. Just very underrated talent. And things still, I don't think, without them, they would have worked.
Sure.
In the Attitude Era.
The next match is the Truth Commission and the Mighty Kurgan, as you see there, who they were trying to get over here. But obviously, I think the most important point to point out is Don Callis, the Jackal, is in the ring as the Truth Commission's manager, and obviously he's a huge part of the TNA now,
or AEW.
Or AEW. I'm scared. Yeah. Excuse me, AEW.
They're all going to come for us now, Jimmy.
But he's also played a role in TNA as well, and it feels like just kind of a payday here for some guys. They try to get Disciples of Apocalypse on screen with the headbangers here. Just a couple guys maybe trying to grab a paycheck on the way to the ring.
Truth Commission
that lasted all of like.
I remember what they wore. Was that the Harris brothers?
No, that was DOA. That's DOA. That's Ron Harris right there that you see on your screen. So
gotcha.
But this episode just kind of feels really thrown together, and I wonder how much of that is because Mick Foley's not there, and you got some guys that maybe not necessarily wanting to show up and do the work because of what happened the night before.
And I you know what? It's understandable.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm glad Foley came back to work because obviously we would have missed a lot of great stuff if he didn't. But like, yeah, it was such a bizarre time. Like hearing about it, obviously at the time. I was sorry to kind of cut off the train of thought here. I was going to ask you, were you watching WWF at this time?
I was, yeah, absolutely.
I got into wrestling at like this exact time, but it was on WCW.
The Headbangers get a win over the Truth Commission here. Great tandem matchup, but this match only goes 4 minutes and 48 seconds. The longest match of the night is the main event before we get there, which was 9 minutes 54 seconds. The second longest match, this one, 4 minutes and 48 seconds long. So not a lot of wrestling on the wrestling show tonight, Mike.
Kurgan had a longer fight with RDJ and Sherlock Holmes.
He sure did. Got his ears clapped. But
big guy.
Yeah, he's huge. I mean, and ended up being a pretty decent actor by the time
right.
He was all done. And we hear Jim Ross promoting here. Stick around for the matchup with Triple H versus Ken Shamrock at the end of the night. And that's something that in the 90s WWE did great, was make sure they promote the end of the night, because listen, it was the most important at the time, right?
Right, absolutely. And even at this time, you had WCW promoting them.
Yeah, for sure.
Condescendingly, but they were promoting them.
Yeah,
it was such a odd time. Sorry, not to get off topic. I remember just watching WCW at this time, not even knowing this existed other than VHS tapes. And I flip over to the other station and I was like, what is going on over here? Sting isn't on this station. I'm not watching this.
and speaking of that, something that they used to do that they don't do anymore that we're seeing here is they would say, make sure you buy the encore presentation, try to get those second-minute pay-per-view buys, but then they would replay the open at the top of the second hour.
Oh, I didn't see. I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah, well, they had to, because at the time, legal station IDs, even on television, you had to give the legal station ID at the top of the hour. You don't have to do that in radio now. You don't have to do it in television anymore. But they would play the same intro, because at 9 o'clock is when you could switch over to from the PG-13 to the TV-14 demo, which meant you had to reintroduce the show at the time due to legal rights. So they had to play the intro and the pyro and all of it again, even though they did it at the 8 o'clock hour. They had to do it at 9 o'clock as well.
You know what? Nothing bad about it. That intro ruled.
It's so good.
I think the only thing that rivals it is Union Underground's Across the Nation.
Yeah, 2002 for sure. Yeah. Well, they didn't miss the mark at the top of the hour. They knew exactly what they wanted to go to draw the ratings, and it's this guy, Stone Cold Steve Austin, comes out at the top of the second hour to bring in the second hour of Raw. He retains the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series as well. And again, this is the launching point of getting more excitement, more heat, as you see Austin just shoved Michael Cole out of the way there to send him against Shawn to compete for the WWF title.
I just wish Shawn didn't break his back. I think that match would have been so much better. But I'm jumping ahead.
Well, this
is really.
Also,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. This also it starts the feud between Stone Cold Steve Austin and this young upstart by the name of The Rock as well. And we get into the Intercontinental feud, where we end up seeing, spoiler alert, an Intercontinental Championship thrown off a bridge, Stone Cold Steve Austin being thrown off a bridge, and a lot of exciting moments in Raw history.
Rock and Austin like to throw stuff off bridges.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
It wasn't just one episode. They did it a few different times.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh. I don't think Rock is Rocky Maivia anymore.
No, still Rocky Maivia for a few more, I believe, weeks here. He'll come out and interrupt Austin here shortly. And, Mike, the one thing I wanted to talk about that I was really interested to get into this part of this episode about was I've been watching some old Stone Cold and Undertaker promos, and the couple of promos that we've seen recently, like the ones that I've been kind of diving into, haven't been great. And I was really interested to get to this part of the Stone Cold Steve Austin promo, because it's Austin Rock, right? It's
right.
It's what basically headlines 3 more WrestleManias after the one that we're about to see here. And here comes Rocky Maivia with the Nation of Domination theme song, but still Rocky Maivia, as we'll see here, with a tremendous haircut that Stone Cold eventually eventually hits on here. But this promo, it's really good. And this is during Rock's, when I was the best Intercontinental Champion, I was the best damn Intercontinental Champion there was. And he challenges Austin, which we'll see here. And he says, don't let me rain on your parade. And Austin's celebration, because the one thing we haven't mentioned yet is this was right after the revenge match. Steve Austin's coming off the win over Owen Hart at Survivor Series that gets overshadowed because of what happens with the screw job. But I think it's important to point out this was the Survivor Series and the infamous scene where the glass is supposed to shatter and Austin's supposed to walk through, but only half of the pane breaks. And Austin gets the stinger. The reason he doesn't compete in this episode of Raw is he shoulders the glass trying to break it. It doesn't break, and he actually gave himself a little bit of an injury the night before. So maybe he should just never be back in the ring with Owen Hart because apparently it doesn't go well. But Austin, I thought it was really interesting. I went back and rewatched this match just a little bit ago, and the crowd was so pro Owen Hart at the beginning, but halfway through they're on Austin's side. They start chanting "break his neck" halfway through, and Owen teases pile driving him again. This is just 3 months after that incident at SummerSlam, which is incredible to think about Austin being back. But Owen was wearing the Owen 316 shirt on the back. It said, "I just broke your neck." And I thought it was really interesting that Austin came back less than 90 days after getting pile drived and couldn't feel his fingers or move his arms for over an hour, and is back in the ring this short after.
Yeah, it's a testament to Stone Cold, how tough he is. Maybe a testament to to not how good WWE Medical was back then,
or how smart he was.
It's a tough call, but yeah, this was definitely a pro Owen crowd. You could see a sign somewhere in there that says Owen 316 as well with his shirt.
It's right off Austin's right here. In a minute, it'll come back up on screen. Rocky Maivia,
good facials.
Yeah, Rocky Maivia issues the challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. Stone Cold accepts, but gives Rocky two challenges of his own. He challenges him to get a better haircut, and then I thought this was great, knowing your audience, since he's such a turd, to flush himself down a commode instead of a toilet, since he knows he's in Canada. But a great promo by the Rattlesnake here, and we're on our way to Austin versus Rock and everything we're going to see out of these two over the Intercontinental Championship, which classic heel Rock here. He just kind of doesn't really show his ass too much, but heads to the back after kind of delivering a great promo of his own.
To be fair to The Rock, that is a better haircut than what he had when he debuted.
Fair. It would be really hard to have a worse one, right? The match that's up next I think is really interesting, and I went back and I checked, and we're about to see what will eventually be the New Age Outlaws. At this point, it's just Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, still in his rockabilly outfit here for the promo, against the new Blackjacks, who will eventually go on to be, obviously we know, Bradshaw and Blackjack Wyndham. I counted, this is Bradshaw's 4th gimmick in WWE at this time, leading up since debut.
Right now.
Yeah.
And then he still has 2-3 more to go.
Yeah, correct. And I thought this part was really interesting. This is not because Jeffrey's sitting there, but because the Los Barricos are in the ring. And then Steve Blackman is doing an interview outside here with JR. And this was just really a testament to kind of how clunky things were back with TV production, still kind of figuring out Raw at the time. Los Barricos are supposed to be doing something in the ring, and then they're interviewing Steve Blackman on the outside while they're all standing there just kind of pandering to the crowd. I mean, everybody knows what's coming here. Los Barricos come over, you're taking our TV time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as they kind of get into it a little bit in the ring, they kick it back to Michael Cole, who's with Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg, and there's still action happening in the ring as Michael Cole starts talking, as we'll see here in a minute. The Barricos kind of start attacking Steve Blackman. They get in the ring, and there's some fisticuffs, but right now they're cutting it back to Michael Cole, and Michael Cole just starts talking as the officials are in the ring trying to separate the Barricos. Blackman even delivers like a drop kick, and then they finally actually cut the coverage over right here. Like, Michael Cole is currently speaking with the New Age Outlaws, and they cut back. So, I mean, listen, we're not quite to the fever pitch. Things are rolling in the right direction, but even WWE TV and Kevin Dunn, those guys are still figuring things out on their side too.
Oh, 100%. Like, it was a botch, and you can't gotta roll with the punches.
I don't know
live
if that
TV,
one's going to end
pal.
up on Botchamania or not.
Well,
Yeah, it's live TV, pal.
I will say, though, Blackman, I didn't realize this, that he was actually in WWF in, like, I guess the golden era, probably the tail end, but he was even beefier.
Yeah, he was jacked. And at Survivor Series was his debut match. And what we're setting up here is the Bunkhouse Brawl, which eventually just ended up being Hardcore Rules with the New Age Outlaws. But back to the clunky TV production, the music doesn't cue for the Outlaws, and this is actually the genesis of "Oh, You Didn't Know," because they didn't know what to do. So Road Dogg just starts talking, and that's what was the prequel to one of the hottest angles and ideas in all of wrestling for almost 3 years.
Oh, you can't tell me that that's not at least in top 10, like,
for sure. I mean,
famous entrances.
Kids today could still recite it. Yeah. I thought nice piece here. Road Dogg comes out with Armstrong Wrestling T-shirt on. Obviously, his family's wrestling clinic back in, I believe, in Oklahoma. I believe is where they're from.
Dad Bullet Bob Strong.
Yeah.
And at this point, Billy's been around a long time.
He's just got out of the rockabilly phase. And this is the first time Road Dogg calls him bad A double crooked letter as well. But Blackjack Wyndham got fired by the WWF before this, and which sets up this handicap match. But the Outlaws injured him, which will be a handicap match. And here comes Blackjack Bradshaw, who will eventually somehow this man becomes JBL, a wrestling god.
The longest reigning SmackDown champion in history.
and almost 10 years later. But obviously, it shows up with some powder and fisticuffs start. We're going to get into our meat and potatoes segment of the show because potato number one is right there.
Yeah, always Bradshaw.
Waffles Billy Gunn in the head. And then watch Road Dogg here. Clearly slows down and tries not throwing himself in. And Bradshaw just with all of his might. And then watch this boot. Yeah, that was as flush as it gets, folks. That's not selling there. Billy Gunn can't feel the left side of his face as we speak. But
all due respect to Jacob Fatu, before he was all gas and no brakes, that was all gas and no brakes.
John Bradshaw Layfield was the definition of that.
Would you say best clothesline in the business?
I don't even think it's close. I mean, maybe Stan Hansen, but I mean, different eras, right? Different
he modeled after him, so
yeah, for sure. The one thing that I thought was great, and I don't know if you got to catch this in the Teddy Long 6 Feet Under podcast with the Undertaker a couple weeks ago, but Teddy Long goes, people don't know this, but Ron and John, the APA, were actually Vince's hitmen, and the Undertaker got so uncomfortable and stopped talking. He was like, yeah, but we don't really talk about that. Kind of feels like maybe Vince McMahon got the wrong lawsuit.
Oh, I'm sure there's
but
plenty that he's not getting charged for at the moment.
we'll go ahead and put the counter up on the screen. I believe that was potato number 5, where Road Dogg pre the braids just got absolutely destroyed by a chair shot, which is probably one of the reasons we aren't allowed to see them yet.
But you got to wonder, Bradshaw's relatively new in the company, whereas at least Billy had been around for a bit. Do you think it's like he's just trying to make a name for himself here and come out strong, or is it just Bradshaw?
he was in Japan before this, and I think it's probably a kind of a changing of style for him, and he's supposed to be angry because his partner's injured, but it's actually going to give him a little bit of a singles run here as well. And then you see the Outlaws pick up the win and then scurry off.
And this is the kind of like the genesis of them becoming a part of DX. I know there was plans in place, like Shawn and Triple H liked them and they wanted them in the group, but then they saw that they were getting hot. I'm getting ahead of ourselves for future reference episodes, but
for sure, but I mean, I think it's important to point out.
But yeah, it's that was the like genesis for that, and they were always going to be a part of it, but then they got hot on their own. But then when Shawn went down, bring him on in. Yeah,
you needed somebody, right? You need Hunter, have somebody for Hunter to lead.
Right.
This next part you're really excited to talk about, and I thought it was really interesting. So it kind of springboards an idea. So Jim Ross does a sit-down interview with Jeff Jarrett, who has just been fired by WCW, and he comes in, and this is almost a prequel to what we'll eventually see Mick Foley do, what we'll eventually see Triple H do, and I think, and he did the one with Kane where he got set on fire too. But
yes,
Jim Ross was so good at just talking and asking the right questions, as you kind of see Jeff Jarrett here in Tennessee in his father's promotion, but just trying to explain to people that maybe didn't grow up with Memphis, Tennessee, or excuse me, Memphis television, about who Jeff Jarrett is and why he came in with the NWA title and why he is who he is as in a rich history in this new cable television era. And I thought it was brilliantly done, not only by Jim Ross, Jeff Jarrett himself, but WWE as well.
Oh, absolutely. Jeff's dad, Jerry Jarrett, ran the promotion, and like he's a legend in his own right.
Yeah.
And this is like, I think I could have my timeline wrong, but I think you're right. I think this is JR's really first sit down interview with one of these guys, and it really is like the precursor to pulling back the curtain. On like, because Jeff isn't in character here. Like they're talking about Brett. I do think this was pre-taped.
It was. So they did this 2 weeks in advance, and this was the match you're seeing here was just a few weeks before the Screw Job. So
yeah, because he talks about Brett. It's like, he is the best there was. I'm the best now. I can't wait to get in the ring with him. And I think Shawn does beat him at Survivor Series, which we know he did. Well,
Yeah. Well, Shawn told us at the beginning of the episode he heard him say, "I quit." ShawnMichaels' words, not mine.
That's right. And also, it's kind of interesting because they're in the midst of this war. I think you got little bits of snippets of like dropping on air and the Billionaire Ted segments.
Yeah.
But he does drop Savage, Hogan, and Bischoff's name, or Jim Ross does, and he just responds honestly. He talked nothing bad about Savage or Hogan. He did say Bischoff, right guy, right place, right wallet. That might be when he's saying it right there.
Right.
And also he does say Shawn, best athletic performer of all time, and then right after Triple H, tag along, which kind of makes sense to me now because he was a special referee in SummerSlam 2022. The day Triple H took the book, the next week he was gone.
Yeah, very interesting. Another thing that I thought was really intriguing about this is you mentioned it a little bit there, where there wasn't a ton of conversation about the opposition in WCW, but Eric Bischoff gets so much flack. And listen, the history books are written by the winners, right?
Right.
But he gets so much flack for giving away the results, and obviously that's a giant no-no. But you do things like this where you allow a talent who came in from the other entity, and you let them trash talk the talent that's over there. And it's not like WWE was completely innocent either, right?
No. Let's say they did jabs. I mean, other than the blatant Billionaire Ted commercial, but it was out there for sure. And I don't know. I got to ask your opinion. Bischoff giving away the results. What's your perspective on it? Because as Bischoff says, it's just business, baby. And
I look at it this way: if you don't want them giving away your results, go live. They did it. Exactly. They beat you to the punch too. Exactly. I never had a problem with it. And they talk so much about the Mankind incident, and we'll get into that obviously at some point. But
yes.
it's because the only reason that gets talked about at the level it does is because of how much it helped the ratings, right? But there were times where Eric Bischoff would start the show with this, and this happens, and I'd go, well, I'd want to watch that, and I turn it over. And I can't imagine I was the only person.
No. I agree with his philosophy. It's business, baby, but I don't think that ever did them any good.
I don't think it helped them. Yeah, I'm with you.
It was a free promo.
Yeah. Hey, in case you're wondering what's happening on Raw, and you want to turn the channel, here's your reason too.
Right. Like if somebody likes nothing about WWF, but they like Shawn Michaels. Oh, Shawn Michaels beat the big guy with the super kick that he couldn't get at a YMCA.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I like Shawn Michaels. I'm going to watch that.
My favorite wrestler wins tonight. Let me go watch that. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say, I was like, I understood his philosophy, but I just don't think it ever paid dividends for him.
I think it was one of those things that you're so in the bubble and focused, and anybody that's watching this as a business owner can understand this, that like you're so focused on what's going on in your world. We're great. Why would anybody want to change the channel? And you kind of lose the aspect of what may intrigue the outside listener. And we've seen him earlier in the show, and a guy that WWE's trying to bring in to entice the outside world that maybe doesn't watch professional wrestling is Butterbean. And a lot of people say he looks like this gentleman here with his sweater on. But that's neither here nor there.
Come on, that one's more baller.
Butterbean in his Bill Cosby-esque sweater is talking to Michael Cole, and we saw Mark Marrow earlier in the show in his boxing gimmick, and he's going to come out here with Sable. And they're trying to tease Butterbean versus Mark Marrow, but this is clearly just another ploy to put Sable on TV.
Yeah, and Mark Marrow didn't win the brawl for all. So,
which is weird that they do this year, and that's why I think the Sable thing is happening, because the brawl for all was set up for Dr. Death Steve Williams anyway. So
right,
it's not like,
and this is a year and a half away from that, even.
Yeah,
that's what it's. I'm so sorry, not to throw off our train of thought here, but damn that sweater, like.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about anything else. Like, you got to imagine Vince McMahon was like, "God damn, pal, did you have to wear this one tonight?
Could you dress like Zach Morris?"
Yeah, I mean, there might not be anything more 1997 in this show than what Butterbean is wearing right now.
Like, even Mark Marrow with the American flag thing, he's probably like, "I see what Butterbean's wearing. I don't care."
Yeah, but like. There's WWE, not to make this like a hate on WWE show, but like WWE gets so much credit for bringing in Mike Tyson and the stuff with Liberace at WrestleMania 1. They've had some pretty big misses with superstars outside of the wrestling world too, and this feels like one of them for sure.
Yeah, even when he does get brought in for Brawl for All, it wasn't the way anyone wanted it to go, and yeah, Butterbean seems like a nice guy. Seems like somebody I don't want to fight, but not relevant for WWE TV in my book.
Yeah, I don't know how many people at the time would have known outside of wrestling who Butterbean. Like, this feels like this did more for Butterbean than it did for WWE.
When he was in Jackass 1, I was like, he was in WWF once.
Right, yeah, that's about it. And then Kama Mustafa, who here's in his second gimmick at WWE, obviously he was formerly Papa Shango, and now we know that the guy he's going to face tonight, they're both obviously really good friends.
I haven't noted that Taker has appointed him his best friend in interviews, which is pretty cool, but. And you got to think though, with the sway Taker has, why wasn't he pushed more?
For sure, but like, listen, I mean, there weren't too many people in the Attitude more over than the Godfather was, right?
Nah.
But we maybe his hose, but the interesting thing here to like think back, even like back to '95 was. They had that great feud where and for anybody that doesn't know this, Mike and I are both in Omaha, Nebraska. They came and had a pay-per-view match in Omaha where Kama had melted the urn down and turned it into the chain and all that. And now, obviously, he's back in the Nation of Domination and the Phenom. And when we started kicking on the idea to do this podcast, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about Kane and Bad Blood. I forgot that was before this. And then we're obviously give away a little bit of what's going to happen here. We're going to see Kane and Paul Bearer here in a few minutes.
Yeah, it's sad that we can't. I mean, fuck it. We're going to talk about it briefly here.
Yeah.
What probably top 2 in my book, best debuts ever was Kane.
Who's number 2? Who would you? To me, it's undoubtedly number 1. Who would you throw?
I would still put Kane, but for the viewers out there, I know Jericho's up there.
It's pretty good, yeah.
But yeah, I would say Kane for sure. And he had this essence of cool about him. Like, he was a beast. He was a badass. I don't know about you. I was a big fan, or still am, of Halloween. And
sure.
Reminds me of just Red Michael Myers.
See, and like, he did such a good job of portraying that, but making it his own thing, like putting his own fingerprints on it, right? Like, it had that feel to it, but it was so different. And one thing that The Undertaker was doing at this time was he was coming out to the ring, obviously, to his famous Rest in Peace Attitude Era pre Ministry of Darkness stuff, but would raise the lights. And I thought it was so cool how they would have The Undertaker raise his hands, obviously the big boom, lights come on, Kane would drop his hands, and how they just how they were so similar but had so many different nuances that made them not just different but the opposite.
It's like,
I thought that
it's
was
like related
cool.
but different. It's like the older brother, I'm gonna do this cool ass shit, and then the little brother's like, I'm gonna take that cool ass shit and do something cooler. Like it was so awesome. By the way, do you prefer Taker just shooting his arms up, or when he comes back later on as the dead man just raising the lights? I like the shooting.
I think it was different though, right? Because at this point he would shoot him up and then the big bang would go off.
Yeah.
But and then later he would just raise his arms and just the lights would come up. So it was a good job by Taker of not only making it different but having a reason for it to be different. And for the best that do it, and obviously he's on everybody's Mount Rushmore for a reason.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, take away the American Badass thing for making the dead man persona so different for so long, but still finding new ways to make the character more relevant.
He turned a zombie into a 30-year career.
Yeah,
but even the American Badass thing, for as convoluted as it was, and obviously he was smart enough to know from a business standpoint. And he said the reason that he did it was, listen, all these guys were getting attracted by WCW, and he was never going to get attracted as The Undertaker because he couldn't go to WCW or even leverage money from Vince by being this character, because he would never go over there and be the same guy. So it was out of necessity, and it's hard to miss something if it doesn't go away. And I think it was incredibly smart by Mark Calloway, the man, to understand that, hey, something's got to change here.
Absolutely. And I know, that's one of the things he said. I think he did. I mean, I don't know about the time. Maybe he was thinking something different and said something later, but he did go on record and say he was never going to go, but he changed because he's like, I got Rock and Austin and DX saying all this stuff, and I'm talking about taking Big Show through the desert with a lizard or whatever it was, a scorpion,
tying a snake around his neck as a tie. So, horrible.
But I would be remiss. Comments a part of Nation of Domination here, and as we saw earlier with The Rock, like how ahead of their time they were for that group. And I still don't think,
great that entrance music was too.
Yeah,
by the way.
We are the nation. I still don't think they ran all the gas out of that. I just think Rock got too big.
Yeah, and like obviously Farouk goes on to do the APA stuff and the Ministry of Darkness stuff and all that.
Godfather.
Sorry, Farouk.
No, I know. You got Godfather here. Sorry,
but I just mean, I wonder how much they missed with Ron Simmons too. Obviously, the first ever black heavyweight champion, and it was a world champion in WCW. And maybe that played a role against him, right? I mean, maybe the fact that he was a champion over there, and here comes Kane, was why you just
that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, and maybe why they struggled a little bit too with, hey, how do we elevate both Rock and Ron Simmons? And I feel like they really missed the boat on him.
Like they were doing good
because he's still very much in his prime here.
They were doing good for a hot minute with both of them, but as you eventually figured out, that Farouk was just cannon fodder for The Rock, which it's too bad. I think the damn thing's funny, but I hate that's pretty much what he's remembered for at this point, because he was a damn good wrestler.
Yeah, and you're gonna say, and I didn't realize that Paul Bearer actually calls The Undertaker a zombie here. So a little call back to what I just said.
I did notice though, watching this, there was like no crowd reaction for Taker's promo.
It's really bad, and that's kind of what I was talking about. It like nobody has said less in their career and made millions of dollars than Mark Calloway. Just some of the stuff he says doesn't even have a finish to it. People are like, yeah, rest in peace. And it's like he was just talking about like working as a gravedigger 4 minutes ago. Like, what are we talking?
Oh, by the way, real quick, two things. Weird. It's just weird. Carrot Top Paul Bearer.
Yeah. And that just happened. They never explained why he didn't have black hair or pale face anymore. He was like just the same, like, no name change, still the same guy. Obviously, I mean, anybody that watched Mid-South or Jim Cocker Promotions knew who Percy Pringle was. But yeah, he's just looks completely different. And obviously, throughout this time, Paul Bearer has severe weight issues and tries managing that, and we'll get into that later as well.
He's still on point with the promo, but
that's where I was just about to go with this, as he's hiding behind Kane here, which is just great work.
It's kind of like a precursor to Paul Heyman. He's like, you can even see him like rubbing Kane's chest here in a minute, like like, no, don't you go down there.
Yeah, I don't think you could put a value, like when you hear like Kane did the 6 Feet Under podcast and they talked about this rivalry. But I don't think you could put like a value on how much at this point in Glenn Jacobs' career, honestly, with Mark Calloway's promo here, Mark Calloway's career, how much having Paul Bearer as the mouthpiece for Kane, or even just the conduit between this rivalry, to add that mouthpiece, that talking point, and having somebody that can get your promos back in the right direction as they go off the rails about creatures of the night and leaving people in fire. Like, Undertaker gets really long-winded here, and it's not good.
And I feel like he even stalls a few times, but
he loses himself. He gets lost in his promo. Yeah,
I think it's because there's no crowd reaction. Like, he's waiting for that lull. And
this promo goes 7.5 minutes.
Yeah,
probably should have been 3.
I remember I just watched it, and I'm like, oh man, I was like, poor Mark. I was like, well, I don't feel bad for him anymore. Like, he had a good career.
But I think the reason it gets to it never gets to the fever pitch is the fire promo goes off and people go, oh, here we go, we're gonna get Kane and Taker, and then this happens.
Yeah, he's doing the classic Brett. I will not fight my brother, and we've seen it. Brett, these guys, we've seen it with the Hardys. We saw it with the Usos.
Yeah,
we know where it's going. You got to build time to Mania. It's a Mania match. Weird thing I wanted to know, is that a tattoo on his face or a bad mole that he got removed later on? Because I always wanted to know what that was.
Honestly, I think it's a drip from the eye makeup. Like, I don't think it's just something he did for a while. It's kind of like Nelly and the Band-Aid.
Because I was like, you didn't go to prison. Like, I hope that's not a teardrop.
I think that's what he was going for. But and listen, wrestlers take shots and sometimes they miss, and this is definitely one of.
Sometimes you get Sarah tattooed on your neck. It happens.
Whoopsie.
No, all due respect, Mark.
Yeah.
He's not
if you ever want to have us back on the 6 Feet Under podcast, we'd love to be on. Or any of your great sponsors want to sponsor the show. And then we see there Kane with the arm drop and the fire up, and I like, for anybody that's never been to a live event, I think that's one thing that's like severely underrated, is like
scared
how
the
hot
shit out of me.
How hot that fire gets to. I remember when SmackDown came to Omaha in 2001, Booker T's Flames, like they couldn't turn, like we were way far. We were probably a football field's distance away from the Flames, and it was way too hot to be standing there. It was really warm.
Hot every time. But I just I wish I went when Kane had that beginning intro, because
to prepare you for it.
When I went, I didn't get that. I just got pow.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
The surface of the sun right into your face.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like that. It just scared the shit out of me every time.
Yeah. And here we are setting up for the main event. We'll get Ken Shamrock versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Not quite Triple H yet, as you see. The prior week, Ken Shamrock with a single leg looked like about ripped Sean's knee out of his socket. But Chyna's still in the fold here too. And how forward thinking of these guys. And maybe it's a little bit that Hunter just wanted to get his girlfriend a job, which is ironic because his wife ended up getting him one. That the wherewithal to know how unique it would be to have a female bodyguard, like, and how it would play into the chicken shit heel role. But like her look was enough to get her over also.
It was a ballsy move. It shouldn't have worked, and it did. Like, come on. How big of a chicken shit can you be to have a female as your bodyguard? And that's no disrespect to Joni or China, because she come on, I would fight
she was intimidating.
10 different men before I'd fight her.
Yeah, just a great look, and this is a part where she wasn't really on the mic much, and they'll obviously pay that off later, but she just did such a good job in knowing her role. As I'm a little disappointed that Rick Rude left for WCW, because he was really good at setting these guys up and just being another person out there. I don't know if he would have fit into Hunter's version of DX at all.
That's probably where I'm going at, because I did mark down. It's like he was good, but I just didn't think he fit. But I mean, it's probably because of
anything
the nudity.
Well, I mean, listen, being half nude was his gimmick in the 80s.
Well, yeah, and I still like how he's still saying you Ottawa sweat hogs.
Yeah, you fat, ugly.
He's one of my favorite characters, regardless. But I was like, I don't know. It just seemed out of place, but it was good to get him started. But I think he left at the perfect time, because these guys and Rick didn't really
gel. Yeah.
That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but
Sergeant Slaughter here taking Michaels and Hunter and Rick Rude, telling them they got to go to the back, and Hunter's got to do this by himself. But how much does Shawn not care at this moment? He comes out in an all black t-shirt and some jeans as Hunter's in full garb here.
I don't think he cares, but I'm also wondering if he's still reeling from the screw job, because
sure.
You can only imagine in the time what they're going through, but he's gone on record. He's like, I'll do it. No problem. Don't ask me any questions. I'll do it. But it was probably, he said he didn't enjoy doing it, regardless of his feelings towards Brett or not.
And the champion was very, very rarely in the ring on Monday nights of this era still.
Right.
But I wonder how much that was the reason he wasn't involved in a match on this night too, because he was probably worried.
They're also still kind of in enemy territory.
Well, and is he worried? Because you got guys that are sitting at home, like we mentioned a minute ago. Is he still worried that somebody may just get in the ring and pin him down and shoot on him in the ring?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I would be if I were him at this point.
I wonder if it was probably always scheduled to be Triple H, but it was like, I wonder if it was Shawn that was scheduled, but like, we can't put you.
Or like, because even because of where Ken is in his career at this point, like maybe a tag team match. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it was supposed to be the Shawn and Hunter versus Ken and somebody else too.
Right.
And they're just like,
kind of wondering what Ken's going through, because I think Ken had a really good rapport with Brett, especially after that submission match he reffed with.
Yeah, for sure. But like, it's so hard to judge, because we didn't know like people's, personal off-camera relationships with Brett, who by all intents and purposes was beloved by the locker room. Maybe not guys looking for more money, but
right.
But
with the exception of the Click at this time, no one had a bad thing to say about him.
Yeah, and half of them are gone, right? Like, and even those, like Kevin Nash loves BrettHart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not maybe not the other way around, but
he's going to go work with them right now.
For sure. Yeah. So, he was never going to be at the top of the card, but like I always thought Ken looked legit in the ring too. For a guy that came from MMA, before it was even MMA, before he came from the UFC. And anybody that hasn't seen Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn in the Octagon, go back and watch it, because they beat the holy shit out of each other, by the way.
Right.
So,
my fiance just asked me about it, because I was rewatching this, and she goes, "Wasn't he in the UFC?" And I was like, "Yeah." So was his brother. His brother's who I know. He looks so familiar. It's like, well, he was too.
Yeah, he was the face of the product for a long time. Something to note here, and I always wondered this about Hunter. Like he a lot of his offense was knee centric. We just saw there the face plant, or the face buster off the knee. He did the Ric Flair-esque knee drop. Obviously the pedigree, the running high knee, all that. I wonder how much of that took a toll and is why he had the quad problems that he had later in life.
It very well could have been. Because both times he tore it, it was on simple stuff. The first one was just running.
Yeah.
The second one was a spine buster that he does every night.
Yeah, there's another toll on the knee, right?
And I always thought it was kind of funny. Like, I wonder if he accentuated his attire because he had those riding crop pants and it has the little spots on them, and I don't know why it always caught me off guard. It's like he's a knee guy because he has those spots on his knee.
yeah. It needed the extra padding. As Rick Rude makes his way back out here, and the crowd going nuts for Triple H, despite being a cohort of Shawn Michaels, and this being in Montreal the day after the screw job. But this crowd was hot from literally the jump the night before all the way through this main event.
Minus Taker's promo.
Literally the only thing that didn't get a pop probably the whole night. Like Hunter just backed into the ropes and put his hands in the air, and the crowd went more crazy than for anything the Undertaker said the entire time. What I didn't understand this whole match is Sergeant Slaughter, who's the commissioner of WWF at the time, throws out everybody with Hunter, and then just lets Rick Rude walk back out there for no reason. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe because he's like, I'm a Ottawa sweat hog. I'm sorry, you can come back out. I was gonna say though, Slaughter was very underrated and integral in Triple H's career because he got that heat for Triple H, or vice versa. Sorry.
I agree. And like they end up having the boot camp match later, Sarge. Maybe my favorite commissioner, maybe outside of or on air GM or whatever it ends up being, because he was, he was a foil and never really looked stupid. They did the spit thing where he, they had the face mask on and all that,
right?
But he always got his comeuppance, and like not all GMs or the Adam Pearces of the world and end up getting that back, and that's what like. There are going to be things that we're going to talk about that, like we talked about the Truth Commission earlier. Spoiler alert, no payoff for the Truth Commission. And that's kind of morph into the oddities. Yeah, they eventually morph into the oddities, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And a precarious pin here by Triple H, that had to be a rib. But the one thing that was so different about WWF programming back in this era was it felt like there was a direction for everybody and things weren't just being done to be done. And you don't have Sergeant Slaughter out there as a foil for DX just to have it go away in 3 months. Like it was leading to things. And that feels like a Pat Patterson thing where there was always a plan down the road.
So I miss that guy. He is such a good mind for the business. You can look at it, Brett, Shawn, Rock, Angle, all Pat Patterson influences, and Pat had a reason for everything.
And I think it's important to point out all guys signed by Jim Ross as well. And we learned earlier this week that Jim Ross is now dealing with colon cancer. So we want to give our condolences to Jim and the Ross family as well. But without a doubt, the top talent relations guy WWF's ever had, and I don't think it's even close.
Oh, and I can only imagine the stress because Jim is a straight up guy, and and he had to make the tough calls. He brought in probably 90% of our fan favorites that we know and love today.
Well, he brought in this whole roster, and just think of the guys you just named: Brock, Austin, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley was his big guy. It's incredible. Like some of the personalities he had to manage. Jim Ross tells the story that, Scott Hall one time was messing with Goldust and was like, "Oh, I got paid X amount of dollars," and it was like 30,000 more than he actually got paid, and just to mess with Goldust. And then Jim Ross had to deal with that, and that's something that I think, we don't see on TV, and that we'll never have an appreciation for. But anybody that's ever managed people can understand how much of a headache that would be.
Oh, 100%. And just Scott Hall alone. And you probably had Kevin Nash feeding into that too.
Oh, of course.
But, yeah, those are two things. Like I feel bad for Jim Ross in those aspects, but goddamn, was Scott Hall funny?
Yeah, right. Like it would have been hilarious to be one of the boys in the back. I would not have wanted to be Jim Ross here.
No.
And he's just trying to get involved, and Commissioner Slaughter pulls him back, and then with the ankle lock on.
Briefcase. What was in that thing? Was it just a prop?
It was a loaded briefcase, of course. That's all you got to know is a loaded briefcase.
It's the insurance policy.
Yeah, as ShawnMichaels runs from one side of the ring to the other, but somehow is not alerted to Commissioner Slaughter that he came from the opposite side of ringside. And as you pointed out earlier, the referee makes the count here, despite getting punched in the face, and that's how Raw goes off air here.
And like we talked about, production wasn't always astute.
Yeah, but like this is also a time period where USA Network was not letting them go over, as we'll see later in the Monday Night Wars. Is the one thing that Vince did that Bischoff wasn't allowed to, is he ran over to 9:05 to get the last hour numbers as well,
and that was smart. Obviously, didn't
and that
work
helps
here,
but it's smart to have that relationship with the network too, right? Where Turner's never going to pivot from that 9 o'clock start of whatever movie it was, oftentimes The Wizard of Oz for some reason. But they were so cut at the 9 o'clock hour, they never thought wrestling would draw that number, even when it got to the point that it was their hottest show on their network, that they just would not allow it to go to where it went over the time slot to grab that ratings number.
Now, however, I did love, even if it was planned, even if it wasn't, like as we saw, but wasn't it just awesome? The last thing you hear is, and you see too, is just chaos, and like you don't know what's going on, and you just hear Jim Ross, my God. I'm not sure that that's what he was doing at the end. I just remember a few like, come on, let him go. And
it's one thing we don't see now. It's there's always definity to what we see. There's never a cliffhanger of what's going to happen next week, and I think that's a lot of because of where WWE went with their writing, and they got really lazy, and there was never that we've got to tease what's going to happen. Because listen, the one thing that's not happening right now is you don't have SmackDown, right? You don't have another TV show to write. You have
Sunday Night Heat, maybe, but
no, Sunday Night Heat hasn't even started at this point. So you've really only got one television to write, so you only have one thing to focus on,
right?
And yes, you have the Monday Night Wars to some degree, but that was kind of the thing, is like, even when we talked about Bischoff earlier, like when Bischoff was worried about what WWE was doing, WWE was worried about what WWE was doing. They were focused on what they were doing, and that was it.
Right.
And it showed, because it was always, well, let's leave them something to wonder what's going to happen. What happens when Shawn attacks Ken Shamrock? Are they going to want to tune in? What's going to happen next after this boring ass Undertaker promo with Kane next week? Like, it always led to something. And back to Sergeant Slaughter for a minute, like, there was never wasted this doesn't mean anything moments. Very rarely. I mean, the Butterbean thing is what it is. But even that was like, for anybody that was tuning in to see the Butterbean segment, all four of you, I don't know what you were doing with your lives at this time, but like, okay, what's next for Butterbean and Mark Marrow too?
Well, you'd have to tune in 2 years to see Butterbean not face Mark Marrow. You'll have to see him face
ever
Billy's brother.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I do think there was no wasted motion in the Attitude Era. Maybe there was. If you
I don't
really
know what's going on with my camera right now. I'm just zooming in and out for no reason. Let's grade the episode. We kind of talked about this before the camera started rolling. Both of us, before we started watching it, very underwhelmed. Grade A through F. What do you give this episode of Monday Night Raw?
Due to what happened the night before, I want to be a little bit nice and say C+.
I'm going to go a little bit higher than that, just because two things. What you just said, the Montreal Screw Job, and not really probably having all the players to put in play here. But I loved the Jeff Jarrett interview.
Yes.
I loved I despite the Kane stuff, like, I love the fact that we got to see Paul Bearer in that light and still feeding into that. And I loved I liked what they were doing, building the Commissioner Slaughter rivalry with DX and keeping involved, and then obviously building up Ken Shamrock. I'm going to give it a B. I was from the way, when you look up Wikipedia, and anybody that looked up what happened in this episode before you started watching, analyzing Attitude here, it didn't look great, but they delivered. And a lot of it's because of, listen, there was a lot of Hall of Famers we just saw, and they pulled their weight every Monday.
That's very true, and I might have been a bit harsh.
No, it's your thought, man. And listen, we didn't even mention you also got Rock versus Austin in a promo,
right? And that's true, and I really do need to start being more lenient on it, because the Attitude Era.
It's your grade, man.
Well, the matches, they ain't getting much longer through the Attitude Era.
No, and some of the matches we saw tonight weren't exactly Hall of Fame quality either.
Promos, though.
There's still the truth condition of it all.
Maybe that's why I was going B-
because of Kurgan.
But then Kurgan came out. Oh, it's not Kurgan. It was what the hell is his teammate? The false commission. No.
Really bad wrestler, I believe. Really bad wrestler A is his name.
I was gonna say, sorry, real quick side note, and I don't even need to talk about it. I just think it's freaking hilarious because I had it noted down, but I didn't say it. And it's not a podcast for my fiance, but Undertaker is her favorite, but she's not a big wrestling fan. I asked her about it, and she goes, "Oh yeah, isn't your favorite the heartthrob Bret Michaels?"
Yes, it is.
I was like, you know what?
You
win. Yes,
the heartthrob Bret Michaels is your absolute favorite. Well, this has been Analyzing Attitude. We hope everybody enjoyed this episode. We're going to start dropping these Tuesday at 9 a.m. We'll break down all of the action from the 90s up until whenever, I guess the start of the Ruthless Aggression era would technically be the end of the Attitude era. That's another debate we can have. We are going to review pay-per-views later as well, and we'll discuss how we're going to do that as well. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. For Mike Sweeney, I've been Jimmie Allen. Thanks for joining us here on Analyze Attitude. We'll see you next week.
Hell yeah.